Hello, hello. Happy Tuesday. Let's pray for our well-being. Let's pray for our health. We usually take for granted. We thank God for keeping us healthy. We pray that it continues. No injuries, no diseases. We pray that we stay positive during these times, which ah, tough, tough times. Blah. You're tough. God made you tough, and stick with it. And you got your whole life in front of you to succeed in your job and your marriage and being a mom, a great mom and dad. So we just thank God for everything that we have, and we continue to look forward to our tremendous future. Now I want you to go to page 40, and I'm just going to quickly correct the first two questions. If you look at one, is what you had, middle of page 40, but we also did something like two, so I can either get you to change f of x to y, or I can get you to change y to f of x. Same thing, that's it. Nothing else to do there. Fiverr on the bottom of page 40. We've done that many times, and they've done a great job. So this is, it says domain. These are your x's. X, 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 and you sub it into the equation, and then you get an ordered pair, or just simply the range in this case. And you don't need to write down the range more than once. If you have one, negative one, you don't need to write a second one down. And then this is where g of x equals negative 1, so that means y equals negative 1. We do not substitute negative 1 for x. Oops, I'm not sure I put that in brackets. You substitute it here. And then you add 3. They do this, but they don't show their work. Sorry, they add 4. That's one step ahead. One step ahead, add 4 gives you 3. And then you divide by 3, you get 1. What's the square root of 1? Positive negative 1. And don't forget, in fact, write it down again, square root equals positive negative. We've seen that many, many times. Don't want to lose those marks every time. That's the hardest one there. Top of page 41 says number 7. And not too bad for 7a. You're substituting anything inside the brackets. That means x equals negative 3, so you sub it in for x. This means x equals t and negative t, and then you add them together. So this is the first part, and this is the second part. And then you collect like terms, and the t's cancel. Now this one's a new one, and remember what f of x means. Okay, they give you this right here. That means y. F of x means y. So that's how you do your xy intercept, just like we did many times on the xy intercept section, except for now, instead of having y, you have f of x. So it's the exact same thing, except you have to recognize that that equals y, and then you set for x-intercept, you make y equals 0, and for y-intercept, you make x equals 0. Okay, so this one is the x-intercept. You can add 2y to both sides. They do here. Add 2y. And it's okay if you get a fraction, divide by 2. 9 over 2 is fine. We're going to practice putting it in brackets though. So 9 over 2, 0 as an ordered pair. And then this one, y-intercept equals 9. Okay, so that's a nice review of xy intercepts. And if I'm moving on too fast, just pause it. 8, 9, I should say, is the next one I asked you. And we have two things to do. Sub in x equals 2 for this equation. And then sub in -1 for this equation. And you subtract them. So subtraction sign comes all the way in the middle. Calculate this. That equals -3. This equals 0. And -3 subtract 0 equals -3. Good job. And again, if you want to just calculate f of 2, you get -3, and then calculate f of -1, and you get 0, and then just subtract them. If that's a little more less confusing than this for you, that's okay. You certainly can do that, and I'll give you full marks. 11er. Rose is correct, and Susan is incorrect. Okay, remember the x is the number in the brackets, and that's the y. So x means domain, range means y. Good job, Rose. Good try, Susan. No problem. Just study it, Susan, and you'll get it right next time. Lastly, I think I'm gonna have to solve an equation here again. X-intercept, what does that mean? Okay, so it's important to know that x-intercept means y equals 0. What do you mean y equals 0? There's no y. Yes, there is. F of x means y. So you have to sub it in wherever you see f of x or y equals 0. And then you solve it, add 11, and then divide by 5, and 11 divided by 5 on your calculator is 2.2. You may be tempted to put 2 in there. Don't. It doesn't say round, so you can't round. 2.2. The answer 2 would be given 0 marks because it's a numerical response question. It's either right or wronga. That's the homework. Good work. And let's move on now to the next section, function notation and problem solving. Pause if you need to write that down. Okay, we're on the bottom of page 41. Go ahead and read that last couple sentences on that page and do the next 2 questions. I'll give you 4 minutes to do that, and I'm going to pause right now. Okay, so h of 0, you just sub in 0 for the equation, -2t. So we're going to put in 0 in for t and plus 12. Anything times 0 is 0, so that cancels. So the height is 12 centimeters. It says explain what that means. What does it mean? It means that 0 times, so the starting height of the candle. Go ahead and write this down, please. Starting height of candle equals 12 centimeters. Make sure you put units. Could be centimeters, inches, not kilometers. And then similarly, we do the same thing here, except we substitute 6 in for t. So -2 times t means -2 times 6. That's 12. And we get 12, -12 plus 12, which is 0. And what does that mean? Okay, this is hours. This means after, so it takes, this is 6 hours, 0 height for candle. So how do you say that in, how do you describe that in real life? After 6 hours, the candle burned out. So again, read the question. This doesn't just say calculate, it says explain what it means. The candle burns out. That's not very good printing, but sorry, I'll do better next time. Okay, so similarly in number 1, Ivory, a botanist, talks about plants, and it talks about days, and what's the height? Centimeters. So H is your height, and T is your time. And I'm going to do this with you here. So get your calculator out. And we're going to stay, remember we talked about quadrant? We're going to stay in quadrant 1. That's the only quadrant we can be in, because you can't have negative time or negative height. So it has to be 0 or positive. And to do that in your calculator, remember HT means Y equals. So let's go to your Y equals. Press zoom 6 if you have a different thing, a different window setting. It says 5/3 T, or 5/3 X. And so I'm going to put 5/3 X, but remember X is X over 1. So X goes into the numerator. So that's 5/3 X plus 2. And then I graph it. And it kind of looks like a plant that's growing. However, these 3 here, these quadrants make no sense because you can't have negative height or negative time. So change your window. For the minimum, instead of -10, your minimum is going to be 0. Okay, so go ahead and write that down, 0, 10, 1. 0, 10, 1, and then always leave it as a 1. And there's your graph. So you're going to sketch it starting at, it looks like 2, and going all the way up to about 5. So let's see if I can do that. So starting at 2, oh, and going up to 5, something like that. Okay, so that's a good sketch. Okay, now I want you to do the rest, please. I'll give you 5 minutes to finish up. B, C, D, E, F, no G. Pause, please. Okay, so go ahead and add what I added in red, the window, 0, 10, 1. You don't need to write it 2 times. So 0, 10, 1 is the window because height and time cannot be negative. It's really just function notation, subbing in 3 for x, and the formula for t, submin 0, submin 6, submin 21 for all those. Okay, so here's the answer. I go to the answer key. I use a bit of a different window. Like I said, I'd rather have it up here. And you can see they substitute 3 into the formula, which I don't know if you can see. Let's move it up a touch. There's the formula. Right here, the function, sorry, which is like a formula. There's the function, it's a function of time. And when you sub in t for 3 for t, I would cancel the 3's. 3 divided by 3 is 1, or you can just punch this in your calculator and get 7 either way. Make sure you know how to write that in words, and make sure you write units, okay? H of 3 means a height after 3 days in this problem. I think the candle was in hours. And then what's h of 0 mean? That means the starting height. So if I ever ask you what's h of 0, that's the starting height. Okay, that's the height after 0 minutes, or sorry, 0 days. Doesn't really matter if it's 0. Okay. 21. Okay, so here's E once you get there. And just again, I would do 21 divided by 3 is 7, and 35 plus 2 is 37. But if you want to do it on your calculator, 5/3 times 21. You can go bracket 5 divided by 3 times 21 plus 2. Oops. And you get 37 that way. So the calculator will work just fine. There's your 37. Now it says height of 21. Well, t is not height. That means this equals 21. So that's what we're doing here. You're substituting h for 21, and then I'm going to subtract 2 on both sides to get 19. 21 divided by 2 is 19. And then we multiply by 3. Or you can divide by 5/3 if you wanted to. Multiply by 3, you get 54. Oh, 57, that's right. 18 times 3 is 54, and then divide by 5. But again, if you did 19 divided by 5/3 on your calculator, you get the same answer. 19 divided by bracket 5/3, 11.4. And I like this one, domain and range. It combines function notation and our domain and range topic. Domain is how far it goes left to right. So t equals domain. So it's from 0 to 27, it says. 27 days. There it is, all the numbers between 0 and 27. And this time, don't use x, use t. And what's the height? And what starts at 2? Where do you get that? Right there, there's a starting height. And goes all the way to the maximum height in f. So all the numbers between 2 and 47. A lot of subbing in, very similar to table of values where I give you x and you just sub it into the function. You get y. In this case, you're given t in 1, 2, 3, 4 of the questions. And then in 2 of the questions, you're giving the height, and you have to solve by adding or subtracting first. We're going to skip the next 2 questions, so that leads us to a new heading on page 43, Interpreting Graphs. So go to page 43, Interpreting Graphs, and go ahead and do the question A for me. And I'll pause it for 2.5 minutes. Okay, to take a peek at page 43 on the bottom, it says explain what's happening from A to B. And what is wrong? A, there we go, to B. If you've been to Yukon, 10,000 points. Someday we'll drive to Alaska, but not for a while. Okay, from A to B, it might say A, so you start with 50 liters of fuel. So you're not driving a Honda Civic because I can't have that much fuel in my car. And you drive for 3 hours, 8, 9, 10 o'clock in the morning. And because the line is straight, it's at a constant speed. So you're probably on the highway. So you're at a constant speed. So I would say you drive at a constant speed for 3 hours. And if that happens, your gas goes down, just like from A to B. What happens from B to C? Okay, for that 30 minutes. The time, you have 30 minutes, but you have not used any gas. What is that all about? And yes, that stopped. So bathroom break, some snacks, caramel, sun chips. Oh. And what's happening from C to D? Easy gas goes all the way up from 20, and there should be a slight, obviously, can't be instantaneous. You don't just press a button and you're full of gas. It takes time, so it should be a slight move on the time there, and you fill up with 40 liters of gas. Good. Okay, I do want to do, the other questions really relate to the next unit, so I don't want to do B and C, but D says, what's a total time driving? And you don't have to turn there. Let's just go to this graph and answer that question on the graph. Okay, so total time. This is D. Total time driving. I'm going to give you 1 minute to see if you can figure out what's the total time that they drive. Yes. So you know, that's how big the mosquitoes in the Yukon are. Okay, so time driving, you're driving from A to B, so from 7 till 10. So that's 3 hours. And now you're not driving until you hit D. D till E you're driving as well. So from D looks like 10:30 to 2 o'clock. You're driving. How many hours is that? Good job. 3.5. Now driving here, you're stopped. Any straight line means stopped. Here, you got 3 o'clock in the afternoon. 4 o'clock, that's 5 p.m. And you're going driving from F to G, so 3 to 4, so there's another 1 hour. And then you're driving from H to I from 4 to 5 with another 1 hour. So total time driving is 3 plus 3.5 plus 1 plus 1. Okay, cool question. 8.5 hours of driving. Holy cow. That's like us driving to Saskatoon. Maybe a little shorter. Usually I drive to Saskatoon for that long, and the next day I drive another 3.5 hours to fish immediately from Clark Lake Lodge. Okay, to the top of page 44 we go. And I want you to just try example 2. Try example 2. What could this graph be? Talk your way through it. Take your best guess. Put something. And unfortunately, their answer is exactly what I thought of. I thought you're going 100 kilometers an hour, and then you gotta slow right down for a construction zone and do 40 kilometers an hour. And then finally construction ends, but there's still a reduced speed maybe 80 kilometers an hour that you can now go. And then your speed is stopped right here. So it's either a stop sign or a red light. Probably into the city at that point. It's hard to get on your own, but now hopefully you can see that your speed starts off at the highest, then goes to the lowest, and then you end up going to a medium speed, either 60 or 80k, something like that anyway. Now I want you to try and visualize number 7. A computer's value compared to its age. Well, of course, the computer is going to lose the value the older it is, just like most cars, except for collectible cars. And so just try your best on 7. Go ahead and do A, B, C, and D. And concentrate on the variables. The B says the amount of money and the time that you make. So more time, do you get more money or less money when you save it $10 every month? And temperature, how does the temperature from 6 in the morning to 6 p.m. on a spring day go? Okay, so try that. I'll give you 5 minutes to do 7. Take your best guess. Put something. That's how you learn better. That makes sense. If you try something, you will learn better. Not great research there, but it is research. If you try something, get the wrong answer, you will learn it better than if you don't try it at all. Okay, let's see how you did. I'm not going to be too fussy with these answers. The value of the computer, as long as you show me it's going down, and you can even say it goes to 0 at some point, it's going to be worthless. That is true. Same with cars. I would accept that as well. Same thing with you get $0 in $0 in 0 days, but then you go 10 up. I will accept a line, a straight line. It's a constant rate. And that's pretty much what I had. If you start a little higher, that's fine. But you do need to have it reaches, I don't know, the height at 3 or 4 in the p.m. That's the hottest it gets, and then it always cools down, especially in Alberta. And then Ferris wheel, I was going to go like this. Okay, I'm going to pretending myself right here. I'm on the very middle of the Ferris wheel going up. So I go up, hit the top, and I go all the way down, then I go up, and so that's my first rotation. And then I go all the way up, and then I go all the way down. So I'd accept that as well. Hard to get on your own at first, but thank you for trying, and hopefully understand them now. And again, I'm going to be fairly generous with these marks. Bravo, bravo. Go, you go. Insert name here. Okay, we're going to give you another try at this. Top of page 45. How does oven temperature relate to time when you first turn on an oven when you're baking a pie? Hopefully a sassoon-berry pie, or maybe a pumpkin pie. Do you bake a pumpkin pie? I don't know. Or apple pie, as long as you have vanilla ice cream. And Benjamin Lake taking part in a 100-meter dash. Okay, so go ahead and finish those off. Okay, here's what I see when baking a pie. The oven gets really hot, and then you set it for, I don't know, 375 degrees, so it stays like that, and then you take the pie out of the oven and shut it off. It doesn't just get to 0 right away. It takes some time to cool off. Agreed. This one might be different, but when you start, you're pretty steep. You're going a lot faster in even 1 second than you are at the start. Then you have a constant speed. I agree with that, but sometimes, especially with Ben, he's a professional athlete. So I would say that he's going to keep his speed for the entire 100 meters. Although I did put a little drop, a little drop of speed um, at the end, not this much. I guess this is where they're saying he crosses the finish line and then he jogs and walks and stops. So okay, I understand that now too. I just assumed it was 100 meters, but they're going until he stops. I would say both is a good answer for me. The note I want you to star is under those two questions. So if we have a car and they're going, that's one graph of the car and another graph of the car, sorry, that's the y-axis, is here, you know that this car is going faster because it's steeper. Okay, so that's steeper the line, the faster you go when you're talking speed. So I want you to see if you can do question 1. Tell me which sister is what line. Amanda, Brittany, and Chelsea. My baby sister is named Chelsea, God bless her. And my niece Victoria. They're having a great school day as well. Let's give you 1 minute to do that. Tell me which sister is which line. Sorry, I guess I should say pause when I say pause. So pause so you don't just see the answer right away. Thank you. Hey guys, I'm going to get you to actually write down what I wrote down there for the examples on a faster speed and a slower speed. The steeper it is, the faster you are. Write that down and then we'll talk about ABC and who is faster and who is the slowest and who is the mediumist. Okay, red. Well, let's start with the steepest, and I would say cycle is the steepest line. So if I look at this line and this line and this line, line 3 is the steepest. So Amanda cycles. And running is certainly faster than walking, so running would be next, steepest line. And that would be this one. So Chelsea leaving Brittany as the professional walker. And there we go. Okay, I'm going to get you to do your homework, and we're going to actually correct this in class today, and that will be the end of the unit. No more functions. We'll have an assignment tomorrow. And so do the homework up to the practice test. The practice test is not homework. So we do the homework up to page 46 and then correct it when you're done. I'm going to give you, I don't know, 15 minutes to do those 3 questions up to the practice test. Lots of time. Relax, enjoy. Please pause. First station identification. This is CJO 960. Okay, that's correct. Here's number 3. And I want you to be specific with this, and so they did a great job of doing that. You can't just say you were driving a car, you stopped 3 times and filled up on gas once. That's not as specific, so go ahead. I'm going to give you time to write this all down if you wish, and not if you wish. If you didn't get this specifically, go ahead and write it down. You need to tell me what happens between here and here. And then what happens between here and here, So 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different things you should have within your paragraph. So good job, whoever wrote this. Full marks. Go ahead and write that down, please. Sorry about the chair noise. You can pause it if you're still writing. I'm going to move on to 5. You probably are still writing, so let me maybe another 30, 45 seconds. Okay, top page 46, number 5. And this is where you need to know 80% means 4/5. Or 80% of the height should be 4 or 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then you break that down as well. Or you can just times it by 0.8. And you'll get 8. And then you'll get, so that should be 8 high. And then times that by 0.8, you get 6.4. And you times that by 0.8. And you can get the picture and visualize the bouncy ball. 80%, why does that equal 4/5? Because percent means out of 100. So divide both the top by 20. 4 out of 5. So 4/5, it bounces 4/5 the way up. And to niner, still on page 46. And Melanie leaves school first, okay? So you might have thought she left home because it's kind of, she's supposed to school. She leaves school and then goes to the shop, and then from the shop to home. This is where, again, you need to know that the steeper the line means faster you go, because if you run, you're going to have a steeper line right off the bat. This might be a common and wrong answer, but this is distance from home. She's not at home right away. She's 3 kilometers away from home right away. So it's either this one and this one, and both of them show that she runs or sprints to the store, wants to spend her allowance money. And then the difference between these two is this one, you run back home, and this one you walk back home because it's less steep. So A is the winner. Now we're going to do some review questions for the assignment tomorrow. If there's anything on functions that I can think of. So let me go to a blank page. There it is. And I'll write them down. And you'll see them in 5 seconds. Okay, here's some major concepts from the unit, which anything on the unit is fair game on the assignment tomorrow. The assignment tomorrow is open book. So you can go through and look at your answers, but you must show your work. If you don't show your work, you lose marks. That is it. And so let's write that down. Show your work. That's what SYW means. Show your work, show your work, show your work on everything we do for evaluation. If you don't show your work, and some of you won't, you will lose half your marks at least. You might lose all of them. So it's a four-step question. You don't show your work, I'm not going to give you any marks. Okay, so write this down and then do these questions, and we'll come back with the answers. Should take you, I don't know, 15 minutes. And it's open book, okay? So if it's open book, you might actually take a little longer, but maybe 20 minutes. So I'll get you to pause it now, and then I'll put the answers on soon. Dun dun dun. Story, in case you're still with me. Give yourself some space after you write down one. Give yourself some space to do the question. I just did this so you guys can easily read it, and we're not scrolling down and up. So give yourself some space in between each questions if it's not too late. I pause and I'll come back with the answers. Have fun. Okay, XY intercept. X-intercept means, if it says find the intercepts, it means find both the X and Y intercept. X-intercept means Y equals 0. So wherever I see a Y, I put 0. I'm going to write down the equation again. Wherever I see Y, subtract 4 times Y means 4 times 0. And you get 2x equals 16, and then solve. We're happy about that one. Divide both sides by 2. X equals 8, and don't forget to write it as an ordered pair. The intercept of points. X equals 8 is a line, a vertical line. You need to write it as an ordered pair. For the y-intercept, I'm going to do this a little differently, but it's the same thing. If you want to do it this way, you understand it better. So y-intercept means there's no x bar, so you can just get rid of that because it equals 0 and it's going to disappear anyway. And then you have to divide by the number in front of y, which is negative 4. So the 4's and the negatives cancel. Okay, y equals negative 4. There is your y-intercept. If you just subbed in x equals 0, you get the exact same thing. All right, I'll let you digest that. And if you need more time, just pause. This is domain and range question. So the domain is how far left to right it goes. It's the values of all x such that it goes from negative 1. This graph goes from negative 1 forever. As the arrows go forever right. So how to write from negative 1 forever? It's either x is greater than or equal to negative 1 or less than or equal to negative 1. If the graph was pointing the other way, it'd be less than. This one is greater than. X an element of all real numbers. And the range is the y values, which will go up and down. How far does this graph go up and how far does it go down? Well, parabola's go a little farther up and a little farther down. So y, how you write down all the numbers in the whole wide world, y is an element of all real numbers. This one, be careful, and you might have written it wrong. There's no arrows on this one. If there were arrows, this graph would go forever right and forever left. And you're talking about the range and the domain, that would be all real numbers. However, this graph goes from negative 2 to 2. And that's it. There's no arrow. So that's, you know, you need to know how to write down the domain as all the numbers between -2 and +2. So write down the small number, the big number, put your x in the middle, less than or equal, less than or equal. X is an element of all real numbers. And the Ranga is going to be same thing, from -2 to +2, except for it's going to have a y in the middle. I'll just use purple. Y -2 less than or equal to y less than or equal to 2, where y is an element of all real numbers. 2 for 2. Bravo. Again, distinction, if there was arrows on the, I'm not going to write them, but if there was arrows on the ends, then you would be domain and range, all real numbers, because the graph would go forever left and forever right. Function notation. This means x. Wherever I see an x, I put -6. But I need to put it in brackets. Otherwise, I don't get 34. I get -38. So write down brackets, or you're going to get 0. And put this one, wherever I see an x squared, or sorry, an x, I put x subtract 1. So everything else stays the same. It's just this underlined 1 turns into x subtract 1. So there's my x. Everything else in purple stays the same. I square that, and I subtract 2. And now this is a rewrite in FOIL question. So x subtract 1 times x subtract 1, subtract 2. And now I FOIL away and collect like terms. Collecting like terms, collect the x's, and add the numbers. I get x squared, subtract 2x, subtract 1 as my final answer. And again, show your work. Show your work, show your work, show your work. That's cool. And lastly, question, is it a function? I'm just going to go right up to the question I wrote originally, number 4, and say yes or no. And this one is no, not a function, because this x has more than one y. This x has 2 y's, 4 and 5, so that's function. Each x has to have only one y. This one is the vertical line test, so can I draw a vertical line where it hits the graph only once? And that means yes, it is a function. If I hit the graph twice, then no, it is not a function. And this one, vertical line test, says yes, it is a function. Ta-da! All right, we are done today. Outstanding work by you. And ready for an assignment tomorrow, which is open book and which is showing your work. God bless. Have an awesome day. Ha ha ha.